Avi Meyers, Northtown Neighborhood News Magazine, a presentation of Sonny Hirsch and myself. www.ntnm on the web, over 250,000 shows watched on YouTube, community policing, caps24.org. Participate, please, with your local police department. Caps24 is just for the 24th District, Rogers Park, West Rogers Park, and a little bit of Edgewater. It is a pleasure to introduce you to somebody we've never had on the program before. He's a reporter for DNAinfo.com. He's covering the Rogers Park, Edgewater, West Ridge, West Rogers Park areas. Benjamin Woodard, how you doing?
Thanks for having me. I'm doing well.
First of all, thank you. And tell us a little bit about your background.
Sure. I'm fairly new to Chicago, in fact. Just been here 2 or 3 years now. And my background is in journalism.
Where'd you go to school?
I went to school in a state college in Washington State. That's where I grew up.
Oh, I visited Seattle a lot in the old days.
Okay.
Love it there.
Yeah, I grew up right around there.
Yeah.
And have always loved to do journalism.
Yeah.
And was afforded the opportunity to do it here in Chicago in the neighborhoods. So DNA Info, we're a network of neighborhood news reporters, and our beats encompass anything from crime to education to new businesses to the local aldermen, and we cover a geographic area. So, like you said, I cover the area of West Rogers Park, and Edgewater.
Yeah, no, I've noticed that. And by the way, West Ridge and West Rogers Park are the same thing, just West Ridge is the real name, but nobody uses it.
That's true.
So, you know, I've been reading your stories. I mean, some of them look pretty good. You know, like with the rabbi that was accused, I give you credit for contacting the proper rabbis to contact in order to really get a good fleshed out story. Also, by the way, I saw you on Bob Seidenberg's show in Evanston, and that's how even though I was reading your stuff. You know, one of the stories that's ongoing now is the Indian Boundary Park Zoo story. And, you know, are you going to actually be at the meeting later tonight?
Yeah, I think this show airs a little bit from now, but there is a meeting tonight.
Yeah, we're going to hear August 22nd, and it'll be on YouTube, though, in a few days.
In a few days. So check out my coverage on DNA Info for tonight's meeting. The Indian Boundary Park Advisory Council is hosting a meeting. It's kind of to rally the troops, also going to be informational, and we're going to hear everything about what's going on right now with the zoo there. The Park District is proposing to close it down. They want to replace it with a more passive wildlife type area and then renovate the existing structure there with more classrooms. So all the animals, there aren't many there now, there's a few chickens and goats, would be removed.
Yeah, now in terms of wildlife area, I'll tell you in my backyard I've had coyotes, possums, skunks, raccoons, and all sorts of interesting things. So I don't know that we need more wildlife. By the way, there's also like a bat reserve somewhere near there. There's like a zillion bats in those trees.
Is that right?
At night, yeah. They made a whole big environmental deal about how good bats are because they eat this and they eat that. And, you know, of course, I had a friend with one in the house who wasn't real happy about it once, but that's another story.
Either.
Yeah. How long have you been covering this area?
So DNAinfo.com, it originally started in New York, actually. So we have a New York site that does the exact same thing. They cover all the neighborhoods there. So we launched in November of last year. So I've been with them since about October, September. And before our website was actually online, we were still kind of getting the feel of our beats, our neighborhoods. So since that time, I've been learning more about the area. I live in Rogers Park. I lived there since I moved to the city. So that was kind of my home base. And it's been interesting to learn more about the history of the area. It's fascinating.
Yeah, do you have any general takes on the area? I mean, it's a diverse area, obviously.
Yeah, well, my area, especially is, Edgewater is incredibly different to West Ridge, West Rogers Park.
Very.
Very, very different. And even areas within West Ridge, West Rogers Park are very different, compared to each other, such as look at Devon Avenue. You start near the lake and you drive, down all the way down to the river, and you'll go through very distinct communities there. Rogers Park,
very much.
Yeah, on the east side, Rogers Park, the neighborhood of Rogers Park is that's where I live, like I said, and I feel like I have a really good handle there. And I feel like I'm starting to get more and more, in tune to what's going on this side of the city.
Yeah, it's definitely very different, and it's a very different crowd. And like you said, even within the crowds, I mean, look, you've got a Pakistani community, you've got an Indian community, And by the way, even though people think they're homogeneous, in this life, cousins always hate cousins. So if you really talk to them, they'll say nasty things privately about the other nation. You've got an Assyrian community, you've got a large Jewish shopping strip that's actually not so much on demand as it used to. You've got Arab stores, you've got Korean, you've got all kinds of good stuff, Russian. You know, it's definitely very. What do you look for? Is there anything specific you look for? I mean, are you given your own freedom to go find stories, or do they assign you, or?
Yeah, we're, if you've ever heard of Patch, they're more in the suburbs.
Yeah, that's like an AOL thing.
It's an AOL thing, right? So it's kind of similar to that. We are a lot different in our structure, but as far as, you know, where we find stories, we are our own editors in a sense.
Yeah.
We do have some very talented editors that, you know, I wouldn't be able to do what I do without them. We have Seamus Toomey, who's a former editor at the Sun-Times, Dave Newbart, Andrew Herman, those guys who are...
those are substantial people.
Yeah, and they're with DNA now. You know, we acquired a lot of them to come work for us, and you know, they help us. They guide our coverage, but really what we do is we're on the ground, shoe leather reporting. We're finding the stories, and what I look for is, you know, I look for what people care about.
Yeah.
And so that's a very hard thing to do, you know, being an outsider to a lot of these communities. But I try to do my best, and you know, I usually start covering, you know, the alderman.
Yeah.
And then from going there from the alderman, you kind of pick up on other things going on in the neighborhood that might not be as obvious.
Yeah, no, you keep your ears open, and I'll tell you, you've been using Facebook nicely too. And people, I noticed people are definitely picking up your stories and spreading them around too.
Yeah, we're very big with social media. Our stuff on Facebook goes crazy. Twitter somewhat too, so yeah, it gets spread around pretty easily.
I try not to twit, but it is a handy tool sometimes.
Yeah.
So, you know, anything's really surprised you at all, or anything shocking, you know, that you've run into, or?
You know, you mentioned the story about the rabbi who has been accused of sexually assaulting a young boy years ago, and it wasn't until recently that the accuser, the alleged victim, came forward to police and wanted to bring charges. That story was probably the toughest story I've had to do since working with DNA Info here in Chicago, just because of the sensitivity of that topic.
Well, really, I mean, I read every word, and you really researched it well. And the people you talked to, Rabbi Moshe Soloveitchik in particular, I think he's got the best take on the whole thing. And you know, I'll give you another name off the air, by the way, of somebody you can talk to about these kind of matters.
Great.
So he's a professor at DePaul Law School, and he's written scholarly things about, you know, these kind of situations. And the old police commander, Roussel, who was one of the greatest police commanders we ever had,
He was great.
he swore by this guy. So I'll put you in contact with him.
And that's really how I find sources and find the right people to talk to, is, you know, talking to people in the neighborhood. And that's what we're about, is being on the ground. You know, we are here. You can call my cell phone anytime if you have, you know, something to talk about or want to comment on a story.
You can give me your number if you want.
Sure. It's a funky area code because I'm from Washington State, but it's 425-328-9840. You can call me anytime. My email, you can find it on our website, dnainfo.com, Chicago.
Yeah. And if you just click, when it says neighborhoods on the top, click on neighborhoods, and you know, it really just says Edgewater and Rogers Park. You know, we kind of got left out, but I'm not going to worry about that too much.
Wasn't enough room there to include it, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm not worried about that at all. So, your family? You have a family?
Yeah, I'm married. My wife and I moved here from Washington State together. She's going to school. I followed her here. I decided to just follow her. Yeah, why not?
The fish is a lot better out there.
It is a lot better. It's true. We're missing our salmon from Alaska.
You know what? I actually order it sometimes from a place just outside Seattle.
Really?
Yeah.
And it arrives fresh enough?
Shipping is a lot, but I'll actually, sometimes it's swimming when I call the day before, and then it's at my doorstep the next day.
That's great.
I love Copper River salmon. It's the best salmon in the world.
That's great, yeah.
A lot cheaper in Seattle, too.
Yep.
Mutual Fish Market, that's the place.
Okay.
So anyway, at this point, I got to start wrapping things up. I want to thank you very much, Benjamin Woodard
Thanks
of
for having me.
DNA Info Chicago. I want to thank my entire technical crew, Sonny Hirsch. I want to thank all of you for joining us. Stay tuned next week, Alderman Scott Wagspat. Bye, everybody.